drop your city in there and let us know why you're here, why you're joining us tonight at this rally. We are going to be more than 400 strong this evening as folks are slowly filing in. We have folks who signed up to register for this rally from California and Colorado, New York, Florida, as far west and as far east as you can go. And we are so excited to have all of you here, especially those of you who are joining in the middle of your workday, those of you who are joining toward the end, maybe even after your workday. You have definitely made a great decision, and you're going to meet advocates all across the country who are also here to join us in this mutual cry that we want to do more for the 600,000 plus people who come home from prison every single year and who deserve real and meaningful financial support upon their release. We want people to return strong. That is the name and theme of this event. So we're going to do a quick rundown of the agenda, let everybody know what they can expect. First, we're going to kick off this rally getting right into the policy. We're going to talk about what the Returning Citizen Stimulus is, also known as RCS. And we're going to talk about cash assistance policy more broadly. So if you've never heard of the term Returning Citizen Stimulus, if you're not familiar with gate money or cash assistance, you will get very, very familiar before we are done today. We're then going to prepare our hearts, and we're going to hear directly from recipients of cash assistance. These are folks who have recently returned, and we're going to let these advocates tell their stories, help us to change the narratives here, and also share their own visions for what reentry is and could be. And we're going to close it out with a call to action where we will hear about a really important piece of legislation making its way through the state of California right now, being authored by Senator Sydney Kamlager, and she's going to let us know what we can do to take action on this bill and let us know how we can take action on cash assistance and, again, do better for the people who we know are returning. So really quick, just a couple of housekeeping items for folks. We want the chat to be as engaging as possible. The chat is yours to use all night long. If you want to expound upon anything that you're hearing, if you have questions about anything that you're learning, or you want to share resources or stories, please use that chat function. That is what it is there for. Go ahead again, if you have not yet, to pop in that chat and tell us who you are, where you're joining us from, and why you're joining, why you care about reentry cash assistance, why you care about returning individuals. Please use that chat for exactly that purpose. You'll also see at the bottom of your screen a Q&A icon. So it should be right by the chat icon. Once we get going and we're meeting with all of our speakers, you'll want to use that icon only if you have a question directly for any of the speakers. So at any given time, if you've got a question for folks, please use that question and direct it towards a specific speaker. If you see the question in that Q&A and it's not yours, you can also upvote that question, almost like any other social media platform. And that'll kind of help us. We will do our best to answer questions for you as promptly as we can. If we don't answer them in that icon, we might even answer them live. So please do ask questions of our panelists. Okay, so now that we've got all of that out of the way, we're going to get started and get right into our agenda. The way that CEO came to get involved in reentry cash assistance was through the initiative I mentioned briefly earlier called the Returning Citizen Stimulus, or RCS. So through RCS, CEO and our partners were able to disperse over $24 million to people who were recently released from incarceration. And in just a moment, you'll hear from our president, Summer, who will share more about the Returning Citizen Stimulus, more about RCS. But before I turn it over to her, we want to give you just an idea about how impactful this cash assistance was for people. And we're going to do that by showing you a really powerful video. So please prepare to listen to that. And as soon as we're done, I'll turn it over to our president, Samra.
You need to have support if you coming home, like after a long time offender. That support you indicated or you explained to the board to convince them you were ready for this, the support has to actually be there or you will be struggling.
I think it's been really rough for people that are coming out of incarceration over the last, year and a half. So a lot of the work that we're doing is working with incarcerated people and also their families to ensure that if they are released from prison, that they have a really solid reentry plan. The partnership that we have with CEO, it's pretty critical to what we're doing.
I wish people could understand how hard it is to look around and have to really be like, the world has changed around me, but I'm still me. Well, there's not a lot of proper training. There's not a lot of ways that we can succeed. Not only that, but they don't have inclusive housing when it comes to the LGBT community. You're thrown out to the streets. If you survive, you survive. A lot of it is safety, especially for the transgender community, because of the fact that a lot of the girls come out like myself, and a lot of people are against that. So you face a lot of hate.
By the time the pandemic hit, I was actually looking for a job. Employment was difficult, trying to find decent employment. I'd been hired at a couple different places and worked, and then once they got my background check back, they let me go.
I had to do it on my own for the very first time. After almost 40 years, it took me over a year and a half, 14 months to finally get identification. So I had to deal with society and all the things I needed: housing, got a car, if you get a car, banking, credit, all of that, even jobs on the interview. I couldn't even get that because I had no identification.
The Returning Citizen Stimulus Program, it is filling this gap that exists, which is putting money in the pockets of folks that are coming home for some of those really basic essential needs that people have during the first 30 to 90 days of coming home. In this critical time after incarceration, they're telling us that they are spending the money on rent, on groceries, on clothing, on different kinds of personal care, all the things that are critical to prepare themselves for employment.
Turning Citizen Stimulus absolutely changed my life and turned my life around. Unless you've been in that situation, there aren't really even words to describe it. And the RCS helped me to get a vehicle and transportation to get to work, and ultimately, helped me find employment. RCS has not only benefited me, but it has benefited my family just in the way that security of just not having to worry about living situations or me getting to work. And with the RCS money, I was able to get a place, be able to pay the deposit and be able to move in. And I had not at that time had my own place in 7-8 years. I'd been in jail and living with family, and so it was very significant for me to have a place, that was mine.
It helped tremendously in a lot of areas. It was enough money being generated to cover phone bill, insurance for the car, personal identification stuff like court papers. It helped tremendously.
Was able to pay rent for me to have a bed, put some money into my car, being able to have something under my feet. It actually helped me plan some of my wedding. I've been married for a year to my husband, and we are looking towards either owning a home or getting our own apartment right now. Being able to continue our future.
When I come to CEO, I already know I'm gonna be most welcome. It's like coming home to me. It's like homecoming to me. They hired me, put me on CEO with Caltrans, and I think I made an impression. I go out my way to help people. It's like a mission now, and that's what I aspire to do on a daily basis.
I work as a cat care technician. There's over 200 cats there, and it's very rewarding just to be able to help them. For once, proud of myself. My parents are so proud of me. I know that they are receiving this money. It gave you a sense you might actually have a chance, to be successful.
I work at a restaurant. I'm actually a prep cook and a line cook. The inclusiveness of being able to choose my freedom and what I want to do with my life and how I want to proceed my future. It's such an impact just to anybody coming out of prison.
If we are really serious about making sure that we're setting people up for success when they come home from prison, everybody that comes out of prison needs to have a real financial resource available to them so that they can succeed. We're hopeful that this is something that actually will be adopted and provided at scale, across the country.
Wow, I hope that did something for all of you. I love watching that video. I love getting to hear about how powerful it's been for folks coming home to have cash assistance, and the gaps that it was able to fill for them in their lives is remarkable. So to talk a little bit more about that, I'm going to turn it over to our president, Samra. Samra, please take it away.
Thanks so much, Simone. And I agree, that video always gets me every time. I love it. And I also want to express gratitude to Bella, Heather, and Terry for sharing their stories in that video. They're three of thousands of people impacted by reentry cash assistance, many of whom you will hear from tonight. As Simone mentioned, I'm Samra. I'm the president of CEO and oversee all of our program and policy work, as well as our organizational strategy. I've been at CEO for close to 8 years, and one of my career highlights was leading the design and execution of the Returning Citizen Stimulus Program. To kick us off this evening, I want to share a little bit about the Returning Citizen Stimulus Project, or RCS, so that I don't get tongue-tied. CEO spearheaded this national initiative beginning in April 2020, providing cash assistance and reentry services to more than 10,000 individuals. I know it's tough to think back to the start of COVID. I don't like thinking about it myself, but I'm sure you all can agree that the prevailing feeling during that time was one of uncertainty. And for CEO staff and other reentry providers, those feelings were amplified, since returning home is always a challenge, even in the best of circumstances. But the threat of COVID made this even more severe, especially not knowing what returning citizens would be returning home to. At that time, there was so much we didn't know. Would people be released or made to stay incarcerated under increasingly unsafe conditions? How would the already vulnerable context to which people return be impacted by stay-at-home orders and an economy grounded to a halt? Safety and security was not available to many returning citizens. Additionally, like so many service providers who were forced to retrench services because of COVID, CEO felt that impact acutely. To keep participants and staff safe, we had to shrink our transitional work operation, and this meant less income for participants at a time when they and their families needed it the most. The idea of RCS grew out of this context. If people coming home had no access or difficult access to COVID-related supports from the federal government, as well as limited employment opportunities in transitional work, could CEO offer a solution that provides them with essential financial support? We were able to do this thanks to generous philanthropic support from the Justice and Mobility Fund and a number of other philanthropic donors, and a network of 32 partner organizations providing services across 7 states. And now we're able to share our experiences from this work and our participant stories on how RCS impacted them with the field, thanks to support from the Kellogg Foundation. The design of the RCS program was actually pretty straightforward. Individuals who were eligible for the program were those who were underemployed and recently released from incarceration. They could enroll in CEO or a community partner, and CEO was able to leverage its pay card system. This is a system that we use that enables us to pay our participants every day at the end of their transitional work, to disperse these payments to all individuals. The first payment was given at enrollment. Then staff worked with RCS participants to determine the basic milestones that they must meet for the subsequent 30 and 60-day payments. Milestones were proposed by each partner depending on the needs of their participants. They were meant to be very achievable, but also offer real support. The payment amounts were for a total of $2,750 for the high cost of living cities and $2,250 for the more moderate cost of living cities. This was both in recognition of the immense reentry challenges under social distancing and a severely retracting job market. It was also about emphasizing to participants that we value you and we trust you. And we have seen that trust manifests itself with decisions that demonstrate individuals are the most expert in what they need to achieve safety and stability. This work would not have been possible without the network of partners we work with. And with that, I want to introduce you to our next speaker, Khalil Halim, Executive Director of the Second Chance Center in Denver, Colorado, to talk about what it was like for his organization during the pandemic and what RCS meant for Second Chance. Khalil, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction.
Great.
RCS provided, for lack of better words, a light in a dark time. Everybody knows during COVID, there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of questions. There was a lot of anxiety surrounding what was going on with just everyone in society at the time, and people returning back to society. It was almost like they were stepping into the twilight zone. What people knew as normal was no longer normal. There was social distancing. There was quarantines. People had to stay in. Places were no longer open. And for a person returning back home, this led to a lot of anxiety, a lot of question marks. So during the time when there was hard to find jobs and hard to find stability, the RCS program gave us and our participants the ability to stabilize them a little bit, to be able to say, hey, we can help you out with something, if you achieve these milestones. And it more or less motivated some of our participants to be able to do something more than what they currently were able to do. And it provided that sense of calmness surrounding how am I going to be able to pay my rent? How am I going to be able to pay treatment fees at the halfway house? How am I going to be able to pay for boots at this construction job? This is the only place that's hiring. And it allowed us to calm that and kind of help our participants come with a treatment plan, a plan with, like she stated earlier, very achievable milestones. And
can you, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Khalil.
Okay, and it kind of motivated a lot of our participants to achieve those milestones that they wouldn't have achieved before. We had some participants that, because of the RCS program, actually started a business, started their own thing. We have one client that he didn't know what he was going to do. We were providing for him to be in a hotel for a while. He was homeless. And we were running out of funds for that, but the RCS allowed us to stabilize him, and he actually started a handyman trucking business during the time. It was a very small, affordable pickup truck, and now he has his own business now, and he's able to provide for himself.
And I think that's what we saw, a lot of people using the money for kind of creative purposes that we probably would have never thought of for them, but when given that amount of money, that was helpful. And just, I think this comes up a lot, like the milestones itself. So maybe if you could just give a brief overview of what Second Chance Center generally does, and actually some of the milestones you guys propose to give a flavor of how they connected with the reentry supports you normally do, in a non-COVID time.
Absolutely. Okay, so we provide services for men and women coming out of jail and prison, such as assistance with housing, assistance with employment, assistance with training, mental health, substance abuse counseling, mentoring. And what it allowed us to do was incentivize following through with their treatment plans, such as getting a GED, getting a job, very, very simple things, completing the training, attending several substance abuse workshops or classes, one-on-one sessions, very things that help stabilize their life, but also gave them the motivation because there was an incentive afterwards.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Phil. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
And our aim in moving this work forward is to demonstrate, as Khalil mentioned, that giving cash to people returning from incarceration is not a crazy idea, a radical idea. It actually makes a lot of sense. And it's a solution that offers a better opportunity to succeed. And most importantly, I think we're trying to shift a paradigm for people coming home. And that's where our advocacy efforts come in. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Pam, who's going to take us to the next portion of this evening.
Thank you, Samra. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you. I'm Pam Lockman. I'm our Senior Director over our policy and advocacy work at the Center for Employment Opportunities. And I was part of the team that kind of helped us launch the Returning Citizen Stimulus and have been helping us think through, how do we move this work forward? And one of the things that we learned from RCS is, the impact of cash assistance and reentry can be transformative. But as you heard Summer note earlier, the RCS project was entirely philanthropically funded. There was no government funding that went to support that effort. And, fundamentally, we believe that if cash assistance is going to become part of reentry, not just in a pandemic, but as part of what we think of as the normal process of returning from prison, we have to get government to commit to it and to pay for it. And they must invest in it like they do other services. And the other thing that we saw in the pandemic is that, this opportunity to give people cash assistance, it can actually drive efforts to release more people from prison. We saw this in states like California. There was an initiative some of you might be aware of called Returning Home Well, which the RCS work was a part of. And through that, thousands more people were released during, the COVID public health state of emergency. And part of the governor's justification for it was that people would receive this enhanced reentry service support, and that included cash assistance. And this is the kind of thing we want to push going forward. Not only that people get financial support, but that they actually get out of prison earlier. And this is something that we're seeing play out in our work with an organization we're very fortunate to work with called For the People. You saw the executive director For the People featured in the video a few minutes ago, Hillary Blau. FTP, For the People, is working with prosecutors' offices throughout the state of California and now in a number of other states through a process that's known as prosecutor-initiated resentencing. And essentially what that means is prosecutors can petition the court to resentence people and get them released early. And a key part of FTP's work is this partnership with CEO that allows them to provide cash assistance to people who are resentenced. And essentially, For the People is able to kind of leverage that support, that cash assistance, to help convince prosecutors to release people early. And that actually having the support is in the best interest of public safety. It makes law enforcement feel more comfortable that people will have the resources they need to be successful and won't just leave prison with nothing. And you're going to hear from Jose Duran later this evening, who was part of this work in California, about what his experience was. And the second area of advocacy we're seeing have a lot of momentum around is what's known as gate money. And so this is money that people receive. Sometimes it's as little as $10. Sometimes it's as much, and I say as much, not as if it isn't much. In California, it's $200 currently, but we're gonna, barring any last minute committee hearing issues, we're gonna have Senator Kamlager join us later. She's the sponsor of Senate Bill 1304, which would increase gate money from $200 to more than $2,500 for people leaving prison after they serve more than 6 months. And the other thing that's interesting about this bill is that it would actually increase with inflation. So essentially we wouldn't be in a similar situation like we are now, where that money amount hasn't changed since 1973, and that's part of why it's so low. So we'll get to hear about what this bill is, what we can all do to support it. But before we get into all that, we're lucky enough tonight to have a number of organizations here who have been leading what's known as universal basic income programs, programs that in some cases have specifically targeted people who are returning home from incarceration. And they vary in how they're structured and in how many people have been impacted, how much money they provide, but some of them are funded with government resources, and they're taking place in a number of cities throughout the country. And what they're demonstrating is that, if you can provide this long-term financial support to people, sometimes over a year of this cash assistance, we can really see the impact that this has on an individual's reentry. And we really believe this work is a critical part of demonstrating that giving financial resources to people when they come home, as Summer said earlier, it's not a crazy idea. It actually makes a lot of sense. And so I want to introduce our three of our panelists who are going to join us this evening. We have Kevin Scott from Just Income JNB in Gainesville, Florida. We have Nika Sun Chong from Fund for Guaranteed Income, which is managing the Compton Pledge. And we have Pam Supervolf from Philadelphia Office of Reentry Partnerships, which ran a COVID-19 cash assistance program for people returning from incarceration. And so, if it's okay, Kevin, I'm going to start with you. If you could just tell us a little bit about how Just Income's program works.
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much. This is so exciting. I am stoked to hear about the other work that's happening. So I'm going to try and keep our part short because I want to soak in what's the other work that's happening. So our program is called Just Income GNV. GNV is the city code for Gainesville, Florida. That's where we are based. Our pilot is a 12-month guaranteed income study for people coming out of incarceration. It has been designed completely by formerly incarcerated people in terms of duration, amount of money, cadence of payments, and it is being administered by formerly incarcerated people, and I am one of them. So the criteria for our study was you had to be a resident of this county and be released from state or federal prison, county jail with a felony, or begin felony probation within 6 months of the application deadline. We tried to get that as close to the door as possible. And the cadence of payments of ours is a little unusual as well. It's not a uniform amount. The first month is $1,000, and then the next 11 months is $600 a month. And we are reaching 115 people. It was a randomized selection. We are partnered with UPenn, Center for Guaranteed Income Research, and Dr. Lucius Kalut from Suffolk University. So it's randomized, random control trial. The money is unconditional. Recipients can use it for whatever they want. There's no stipulations whatsoever. If you want to buy a jet ski or a sandwich or save it, totally your business. We thought that was important for people to exercise some autonomy. We believe that people are the experts in their own lives and should be able to make decisions that are best for them. And we've already seen anecdotally what people have been doing. The first group of people started getting their money in January. So there are four payments into it, and we've seen them make decisions that were best for them and their families. Actually, one of our recipients, Calvin, is on the call. He's going to share his own experience a little later. So part of maybe some of the rationale of why we're doing this is, I'm sure most people on this call realize that the US has the highest incarceration rate on the planet. Florida's rate is even higher. We outpace the country in terms of incarceration rates. And then here in this county, to zoom in even further, there's a huge economic and racial disparity here. We're in Alachua County. You're 9 times more likely to be arrested if you're Black in this country, or in this county rather, than if you're white. And we know that the fastest growing demographic in incarceration is women of color, and also women of color are the demographic that is bearing the financial burden as well of supporting people while they're inside. Florida is one of only 5 states that does not pay prisoners for their mandatory labor. We get 0 cents. All of those states are in the South, perhaps not a shock. Prisoners are malnourished, so you're forced to go to the canteen, which can be 7 times as expensive as a grocery store. Every time you request medical attention, it's $5. It typically takes several requests, several days, and dollars to actually receive medical attention. Phone calls are expensive, letters are expensive. Starting May 9th in Florida, all of the letters are going to be digital now. You will no longer be able to touch the letter that your family wrote you. I'm sorry, that's very emotional for me. That was a huge part of my incarceration survival, was that tactile experience of touching something that a loved one had written to me, and vice versa. That's going away in a couple weeks. So we know, the reality is grim while you're inside, obviously. Post-release, you're going to face 27 to 30% unemployment, 10 times more likely to be homeless. We have a homeless shelter here in our county called Grace Marketplace. It is a low barrier homeless shelter, meaning we will accept people that are over the age of 18. And so a lot of people come out of Florida Department of Corrections, come here because they can at least find a place to stay. I know very well the reality of that. I spent some time sleeping in the parking lot of that homeless shelter when I got out of prison because I had nowhere else to go. I now work there also as an advocate, and so I'm very honored to be on the other side of that equation, meeting people when they come out of prison, trying to provide some humanity. We know people have PTSD, post-incarceration syndrome, post-release. It's hard to find a job, stress, you've been traumatized, your experience can be haunting. It still shows up for me 6 years later. I've had to, seek therapy, and it's a real problem, and it's oftentimes overlooked and unaddressed. So I encourage people coming home to take care of their needs, provide some self-care for themselves if they can. One of the biggest parts financially is, people get violated for inability to pay fines and fees. You might have court costs, probation costs, an ankle monitor, mandatory therapy, drug testing, any number of fees upon you. So you have an extraordinary amount of debt and a diminished opportunity to generate income. And so the math is just wildly against you. And we know here about 25% of probation violations can be traced back to just a lack of money. There's not a desire to have money. There's no crime. The crime is your bank account. You are too poor to be free, which is absolutely fucking insane. And so we're hoping to interrupt some of that revolving door at the intersection of poverty and incarceration. We know that there are barriers to reentry. I feel like everyone, they seem pretty well advertised at this point. What we're trying to study is if a guaranteed income can overcome those known barriers and help to let people actualize their inherent potential. I think it's important to recognize that people have a ton of potential. Some of the brightest, most capable, compassionate, innovative, ambitious people I met are in a cage, were in prison, amazing human beings. And then I know that they struggle when they get out. So we're hoping that this can at least provide some sort of cushion, let people get their legs beneath them and get on with their lives. So anyway, we heard from Calvin himself. Calvin will share his experience coming up.
We're looking forward to hearing from him in a few minutes. But Kevin, thank you for sharing both about Just Income, about your own experience, and we're very grateful for the work you're doing. I'm gonna turn it to Nika, and I encourage everyone to keep asking questions in the Q&A. We'll have a few minutes to come back to them as we wrap up this section. But Nika, thank you so much for joining us, and would love it if you could tell us a little bit about the Compton Pledge, your work, and how, in particular, how it impacts people who've returned from incarceration.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kevin, for sharing. Hi, everyone. I'm really grateful to be here. My name is Nika Sooncheong. I'm the founder of the Fund for Guaranteed Income, and we're a nonprofit that builds guaranteed income programs that are both community rooted and scalable. And so how do we do that? We build the evidence base that makes the case for more accessible government systems. Then we develop the tools that can deliver them. And then importantly, we organize political coalitions that will demand them. And so our first flagship program is the Compton Pledge, which is delivering 800 to 800 households between $300 and $600 a month for 2 years. And the cohort is representative of a city as a whole, which means that we have a representative number of undocumented neighbors and formerly incarcerated residents who are excluded from accessing welfare programs and economic systems. To speak more about how our programs support those who are returning from incarceration, as has been noted, and as I think we'll touch upon many times today, drug-related felony convictions, for example, restrict eligibility for food and cash assistance in 36 states, and criminal charges restrict access to public housing and unemployment insurance. And so what we've developed for the Compton Pledge is a platform for recipients and administrators to deliver payments, but also access a tailored set of resources that are made available. Because as we all know, one of the reasons for the need for guaranteed income is the punitive welfare infrastructure that we have today, which has very concrete links to the punitive carceral state. And before turning it over to Georgia, I want to uplift the work of a few of our partners who are leading subsequent pilots, the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. We're working with them to do the first guaranteed income program for currently incarcerated people across 14 states and state and federal prisons. And then Equity and Transformation in Chicago, which is connecting guaranteed income to the drug war reparations campaign. And so through our partnerships and our programs and our tools, we hope to articulate the need to really make a mass movement that will demand the policy case for more inclusive welfare systems. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nika. And we're very, very excited to hear from Georgia later, who can speak more about the Compton Pledge, about her work in California. And I'm going to turn it to Pam now to talk a little bit about the work in Philadelphia. Pam, I gotta say, great name, by the way. And you could tell us a little bit about your work at the Office of Reentry Partnerships and this program you launched in the pandemic.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really enjoying what I'm hearing. I'm excited because I'm seeing that we have partners all over the country dedicated to the same cause. So this is very, very encouraging. I'm going to skew on to hear some of the stories of the people who have been blessed, for the want of another word, by these incentives, because sometimes people tend to forget that people coming from prison have needs, or they think that, throw them away and throw away the key, and when they come home, they're nothing. So I'm really, really happy and excited and to hear that all, this good stuff is happening. Thank you, Kevin, for what you shared. I have a million of questions for you. And also, Nika, I'd really like to contact you after the fact. So here in the city of Philadelphia, I work for the Office of Reentry Partnerships. It's run by the city of Philadelphia. It's a city-run reentry organization. So we work pretty closely with the men and women coming from the county jail, which is called the Philadelphia Department of Prisons. During COVID, one of my staff members and I, everything shut down. Of course, everyone in the country, no one going anywhere. Everything was frozen, but men and women were still being released from prison every day. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that. So in late February 2020, my then executive director decided that, we have some money. We could set up this payment program for people who are being released from the county jail. So at least we could help them, deal with the barriers. And the barriers are always many, but COVID made it even worse. Like we were hearing before, spaces were shut down, there's no jobs, nothing was happening. So we started making calls, just offering resources to the individuals that were coming home. We'd talk with their families, or if we couldn't get the individuals, we'll offer, do you need housing? Do you need assistance with getting a job? Do you need benefits? Whatever you needed. But then when we added this incentive of the cash payment, it really opened the doors to help a lot of people. So we said the criteria was set. If you were released from the Philadelphia Department of Prisons between March 1st, 2020, and this ended on June 2021, you were eligible to get a $500 payment. No questions asked. As long as you met that eligibility criteria, and you were a Philadelphia resident, and you were released from the county jail. Those were the three criteria. We asked people to upload some documents. It was really send us your banking information. We learned a lot when that started, because we realized, and it's something that I think my bosses didn't think about, I thought about it being formerly incarcerated, that a lot of people did not have basic banking information. So what we turned to was having them use the mobile cards. So we said, apply for a Cash App card, apply for a Venmo card, apply for one of those cards. And those cards have banking information, routing numbers, and account numbers attached to them. So we encourage people to get those cards. And then they also had to upload a document of certification. Like I said, we were able, and during that period, when we looked at the records at the end of this program, almost 12,000 people were released from the county jail during that period. However, because of limited funding, and we were only able to give 1,200 people $500 each. That was the maximum of the budget that we were given to work with. But the numbers were very interesting. When we looked at the end and we looked at the data, about 2/3 of the applicants were living with families and friends at the time of the application. So with the majority of them doing so on a temporary basis. That was very interesting for us because, there's a question, are you homeless? I'm not homeless, I'm staying with a friend, but it's only temporary. Again, show that they really needed the assistance. 684 of the applicants were currently under supervision when they applied. So we worked with the probation officers to help them get accessibility to this money. 80% of them identified as unemployed at the time of application, which was a no-brainer. There were no jobs for people who could work. So, it was really interesting to get this information. And another interesting fact that we realized, and my office is now really looking at this now that COVID is kind of easing up, 24.2% of them, which was 274 of the people that we served, reported receiving no service from a nonprofit or community-based organization. And that was very sad. They were saying, they knew when we called them, they knew that we were offering the monies, but many of them did not, even though they were leaving the county jail. And we sent a lot of promotional information to the prisons. For some reason, that information was not disseminated to them. So a lot of them didn't even know about us until they were told they can contact us to get the monies from the county jail. Some other interesting data that we collected from this experience, 181, only 16% were identified as female. And that was a very, very low number. When we did our program reviews, this was something that we thought, when we do it again, I'm being optimistic, we will probably try to reach out to more females because, of course, they have, greater or similar needs to the men who are coming home. 11 of this number was identified as transgender. 833, which was 77.8%, were Black or African Americans. 138 of these people, which was 12.2%, were Hispanic or Latino. And this was another red flag for us. We know there are more Hispanic people coming out of jails. It's just that, again, if we do this again, when we do it again, we'll try to reach out to more Hispanics and more females. 38%, which is 436 of this number, were 30 to 39 years old, and 22%, which a total of 249, were between the ages of 24 to 29 years. What we've done also, we actually looking now at the recidivism information, because we want to make a case to the city of Philadelphia. We need to do this again. We need to do this not because it's COVID, but just like we're hearing in all the conversations here, people coming home from prison do need help. That video is very, very impactful. And I'd probably like to get a copy to bring to my bosses so that when they go to their bosses, we will have like a tangible document that that will help us advocate for men and women, coming home from prison to get it. But we've seen this as people are still calling us, do we all still have the $500? Because again, we're hearing from the professionals on this panel that people need money coming home, and people tend to think, well, why give them? It's a welfare mentality. No, people need assistance, women especially, and men coming home. You need to connect transportation, basic bills. You're trying to get a job, you need to get a phone, you need to get just basic things. And with all that money in your pocket, we were talking, I was on another on panel earlier today, and we were talking, about the CEOs. Just every woman that comes in, they will down talk you and think, oh, were you locked up for prostitution? So then we realize that a lot of these women, when they leave the prison, sometimes they let them out at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. The men are out there. It's not that they want to become or go back to that life, but sometimes that's the only way that they could get a couple of dollars in their pockets to get to their families' doors. So if people know that they can get this money, I think recidivism rates will be reduced. People will be more incentivized to do better with their lives when they come home. And I'm a very strong proponent of that. And I thank you so much for having me. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you so much. And so appreciate the work you're doing. I know there were a few questions that came in, and if we can just take just a couple of minutes to answer a few. I saw, Kevin, you answered one that was kind of specific to research. But I think this is a question maybe for all the panelists. When we advocate for reentry physicians, this is a question that's not put in the chat. Are there any potential financial pitfalls we should be aware of? For example, is it taxable income? Will it impact eligibility for public benefits? This is definitely something we saw with RCS, and I'll open it up to the group if there's anyone who wants to answer that question. Nika, I see hand raised. Jump in, please.
Sure. So in many ways, it depends on the exact source of the funding. So as Fund for Guaranteed Income, because we're a 501c3 and are dispersing below $15,000 a year, which is the IRS threshold, it counts as a charitable grant from us to the individual, which means that it should not be counted as taxable income. Now there are some more programs coming online that are government funded, where there's a different situation. California recently released waivers for SNAP and for TANF. At the same time, it's necessary to build tools that can calculate potential eligibility or potential benefits interactions. And so that's what we're working on right now, a tool that can not only calculate whether or not there might be a benefit interaction, but also tell you what benefits you aren't enrolled in if you're eligible for them. And many programs have, as a third safety measure against potential losses, built a hold harmless fund to compensate the potential losses from government benefits. But we haven't faced that in Compton.
That's really great context, Nika. And this is something I know it depends on how the funds are dispersed, on who's dispersing it. CEO as the entity that was dispersing the returning citizen stimulus. We essentially acted as an employer in the distribution of those funds. We're seeing a lot of different examples, I think, of how the delivery, whether it's like you heard Pam saying, how you literally get the money to people, as well as sort of how the money is actually, what it's essentially counting as, whether it's income or something else. So these are all excellent questions. I'm going to put a plug in for some materials you're going to get after this event. that include a guide that we put together that's just some sort of like lessons learned and how you implement programs like this. And I know a lot of the people you're hearing from are experts on this and can speak more to it. If it's okay, just to kind of keep us on schedule, I know all of the panelists are going to stay. I'm holding you to this. You're going to stay for the whole event, so we'll have time at the end also to come back to Q&A with them. But I want to turn it over to my colleague Joseph, who is going to introduce the next section of our evening, which is essentially hearing from folks who've been directly impacted by different cash assistance programs. And Joseph, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Pam. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Mendoza, and I'm the project manager for the Returning Citizen Stimulus. When I was first introduced to RCS, it was during the early days of the pandemic, and I was a manager of a program at that time. We definitely needed some glimpse of light, like the one that Khalil mentioned earlier, for our participants at that time. RCS immediately filled me up and the whole team with hope that our participants would be receiving some type of stimulus. Program staff prioritized all we could to ensure as many individuals received their stimulus through outreaching in every possible way till the very end. I witnessed firsthand through my team and directly hearing from our participants the relief RCS brought to their lives during a time in which employment was very limited. I also witnessed directly through one of our partners, Exodus, who housed recently released individuals into temporary hotels after being released from incarceration, and many of them received RCS. And I could tell you that RCS helped them out as they didn't have any plan at that time. I was so proud to work as CEO because hope is what RCS represented during that time. For our next section, you will be hearing directly from people who have received cash assistance and the importance of cash assistance in reentry. I want to thank our next speakers for being open to share their journeys with us today, as their stories are the main reasons why we're all gathered here today. The panelists will be sharing their stories of how cash assistance helped them during a certain time in their lives, and they will also be taking Q&As regarding cash assistance and a potential future of cash assistance as a part of reentry. So without further ado, our returning strong panelists, I will be introducing each and every one of them. Jose, please come up first. What is your name? Where are you from? And where do you live now? And some fun fact about yourself.
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Jose Duran. I'm from Sacramento, California. And a fun fact about me is that I'm real passionate about stuff like this because at one time, I was sitting in a cell, thinking I was never gonna come home, and wishing somebody like you guys, was fighting out here for me and help me out in any way possible to get me back into court or just to make my case stand out, because it was one of those cases where they gave me too much time. They gave me too much time for what I did. I know I deserve time and all that, but they gave me a life sentence and nobody even died. Nobody even went to the hospital, things like that. So I would say that that's one of the fun things about me, that I'm real passionate about this and helping other people, that are still in prison. So yeah.
Thank you, Jose. Next up, Karina, if you could please tell us your name, where are you from, where do you live now, and then a fun fact about yourself.
My name's Karina. I reside in Montebello, California, but I'm originally from South Central. A fun fact about myself, I am a jokester, so you are bound to have a good time with me, laugh and crack up. So yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, Karina. Next up, Calvin, what is your name? Where are you from? Where do you live now? And then a fun fact about yourself too.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Calvin Mitchell, and thank you for having me. I'm from Hollywood, Florida. It's a city next to Miami. I don't know, the fun fact about me is that I did a lot of constructive things prior to going to prison. I was an assistant scoutmaster for Troop 64. There are a lot of things that's going on that I'm hearing within this particular Zoom. I'm loving what I'm hearing. I really want to be an advocate for Community Springs. How I got introduced to this program, I just received a letter in the mail and I did the survey and I got a response. thought it was a scam, but it turned out to be just fine. You know, and then I got introduced to Kevin. So, you know, the thing about, you know, advocating for cash assistance for people coming out of prison is very, very important because, see, once I was receiving the cash assistance, you know, it was an overwhelming feeling of stability. And then I pre-planned prior to coming out of prison what I wanted to do, the direction I wanted to go in, and I put together a plan and carried it out because I wasn't receiving any assistance at all prior to coming to Just Income. So, you know, it was just having a positive attitude, a great mindset, and pre-planning. You know, with the cash assistance, I knew I didn't have to commit another crime just to support myself or do anything like that. It put me in a position where I actually afforded a car. It's put me in position to look for employment. It's put clothes on my back. It's a number of things that cash assistance does for people that have the right mindset. And you know, when you have people like Sam, Simone, Samra, Kevin, and Nika, and a host of other people, Miss Pam, you know, it's relieving. You know, I'm glad I get an opportunity to speak with you guys and act with you guys. It's fun because I was just telling Kevin the other day, you know, I'm the face of Community Springs and I want to be the face of Community Springs. So, you know, that's where I am, you know, in my movement. And with this assistance, I just keep charging forward. You know, I wrote a philosophy to myself while I was in prison, and I wanted to share it with you guys if it's okay. And it goes like this. There's an I and we version, but I'm going to give you the we version. We can and will rise without any limitations on how high we go. Hope, faith, and tranquility opens the channels to health and vitality so that sickness and disease cannot get a foothold in our lives. In place of fear and worry, we invite the influences and conditions we envision and desire. In the degree we love, we will be loved. Truth, wisdom, and light will be our constant guide. Therefore, we will conduct ourselves with loyalty, honor, and integrity so that our deeds reflect our worthiness and our purpose, which is to inspire those around us. Permanence, perseverance, and persistence in spite of all obstacles, discouragements, and impossibilities. It is this that distinguishes you, me, and us from the weak. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin. Appreciate that. Next up is Cindy. What is your name? Fun fact about yourself, and also where are you currently located?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me this time for you guys to get to know a little bit about myself. I'm Cindy Ortega. I'm originally from El Monte, California. I just recently moved to East LA. Thanks to a lot of, most importantly, to this cash assistance program, I was able to get a home. And CEO has been a very great backbone for myself to get back on my feet. And a fun fact about myself is I love a challenge. Life has thrown a lot of curveballs at me, and I've been able to dodge each one of them. And I love the challenge, and I love proving people wrong about myself.
Thank you so much for that, Cindy. And last but not least, is Sandra. What is your name and where you're from, and the fun fact about yourself?
Okay, hello, my name is Sandra and I'm from the Los Angeles County area. I currently live in San Fernando Valley. I'm currently a client aide at Christ Centered Ministries. It's a reentry program. There's a total of 12 houses. And I'm in the process of becoming a community health worker, which involves case management. So I'll be more involved in helping people have a smoother transition out here in the streets, you know, from in there. A fun fact about me, well, I'm very family oriented, and I have 4 adult children and 10 grandchildren. So, you know, this incentive, cash assistance has helped me tremendously. Got a big family. So, and thank you. And CO has not only helped me with cash assistance, they've helped me in so many ways. Like there's so many resources that they have to offer. Whatever I went through this whole past year that I've been out, I reach out to them and they have an answer for me. You know, so I just give a big thank you to them. You know, thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you so much, Sandra. And actually, last but not least is actually Georgia. So fun fact, where are you from, and also just your name?
So hi, my name is Georgia. I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, but now I'm a resident of Compton in Los Angeles County. And what's something fun about me? While incarcerated, I learned how to play the violin. And I'm continuing that now while I'm out. And I think something else that's funny about fun about me is that being a woman that was incarcerated for 25 years and 3 days for a crime she didn't do, now it's my passion. I've dedicated the rest of my life to advocate and support and help in an area that took a big chunk out of my life.
Thank you so much for that, Georgia. And for this next piece, I will be presenting my colleague, Barbara Beard, who will be joining to be a part of the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. And thank you everyone for introducing themselves. So like Joe said, I'm his colleague. I'm a program associate for RCS, and I work mainly off the West Coast, providing RCS payments for folks with our partners. So I'm gonna do other questions, and I'm gonna start off with Jose. Jose, how did you get connected with For the People, which is one of our current RCS partners in Cali, and their prosecutor-initiated resentencing work?
Yes, yeah, I contacted them when I was in prison. I was doing my research, you know, like, because I had a life sentence, so I was doing research to see what can help me come home, or basically to reopen my case and go back to sentence, get resentenced. So basically, through doing research, some people knew about them, and they told me about this, so I wrote them. But I actually came into contact with them when my lawyer basically linked me in with them. So that's how I found out about them, like when I really got in contact with them.
Awesome. And can you tell us how you found out you'd be receiving cash assistance and what that was like for you?
Yes, my lawyer, she told me that prior to coming home, she told me that I was gonna get a certain amount of money, and that right there, you know, it like relieved a lot of stress for me because my family, they're on Mexico, so I only had like my dad and a few people out here. So coming home, you know, like I really didn't have much, and then it helped me with like paying people that I know out here to stay at their house, you know. So it helped me with that, you know. It helped me because that's the most thing. That's the most stressful part of coming home, you know, the housing and financial, coming home with money, you know. So that took that stress out of me, you know, like finding a stable place to stay at that time, you know, for parole and all that stuff. And then so yeah, it's just it didn't worry me about, you know, how I'm gonna get money. I didn't worry about how I'm gonna get money, you know, things like that. So
Awesome. And what are your hopes for the future?
my hope for the future is, as far as for the community, like that's for people to get that money, or for myself.
Could be both.
Yeah, well, I hope that this bill that you guys trying to pass, you know, it passes, because like the money that the game money that they give right now, you know, it's not enough, and I hope that it goes through, because a lot of people, you know, like I said, they don't have nobody. They spend a long time in prison, and then their family might, you know, they might die, or they separate from them for whatever reasons, and they come home by themselves. So I hope that this happens, that way they can be like me, you know, more sure-footed when they come home, and less stressful, you know, and they won't go back into thinking, oh, well, what I can do now, you know, should I do this, do that, and start committing crimes, you know, or selling drugs, you know, you never know. So it's like, it helps you for that meantime, you know, to at least to think better, you know, and within that meantime, you know, you're gonna use that money to like step your level, step up, you know, and then find probably a better job or something. It's real. I hope that it continues like that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Jose. And I'm going to pass this along now to Karina. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. So how did you get connected with CEO?
Got connected with CEO through a program in CRDF, the county jail out here in Los Angeles. They were having a job class, and in one of our class sessions, we had somebody from CEO come in, explain the situation to us, explain us that they will hook us up with a job when we got out. I didn't really pay attention too much for the RCS part until I got out. But what really got my attention was the fact that we would get job placement the minute we got out.
Awesome. And what was your journey like, and how did you come to receive cash assistance, RCS?
This was my first time incarcerated. I was looking at a lot of time. Due to that, my family literally got rid of everything that was mine. My clothing, my shoes, anything that belonged to me was gone. So when I got released in the clothes that I wore 3 years before getting locked up. So it didn't fit me, obviously. And it stank. It was horrible. And I didn't have anything. I didn't even have a pair of drawers to come out to. So I felt little. I felt like no worth whatsoever. So I remember going into CEO and getting offered that money, and it took the biggest relief off my shoulders because I could buy clothes. I could buy clothes for an interview. I could take my kids out to eat, something that I hadn't done in 3 years. So it helped a lot.
Awesome. And what was it like when you found out that you'd be getting the stimulus, and what are your hopes for the future also?
It was amazing. Being able to go shopping for, women products, health, hygiene products, being able to, buy myself something that I can eat, take an Uber to wherever I needed to, jump on the metro when not having to struggle to see if I had money or not. And my hope for the future is for people to understand that when we come out, a lot of people don't have families to come out to. They don't have money. They don't have anything. So instead of us continuing this I can't say the word, recidivism. Yeah, this will help people, not reoffend, not do anything, just to get a small little necessity that they need. So I would love for people to understand that this is a big help for us. Yes, we committed a crime, but we want to change, and the second opportunity will help us a lot.
Awesome. I will pass it on to Joe so he could ask Georgia and Calvin some questions, and then we'll end it with Sandra and Cindy.
Thank you, Barbara. So, Calvin, hey, how did you get connected to Just Income?
Mine was totally different. You don't get vetted in Florida, and here you don't get vetted for anything. They have zero income and zero program. I implemented a lot of things while in prison at Madison Correctional, but the way I got in contact with Just Income is that I was mailed a letter, and I didn't know what it was, so I was asking questions about it, and it only required that I do a survey. So I did the survey, and I sent the email back in, and I got an email back. And that's when everything turned into Kevin Scott. I signed my life over to him. He basically called me in, interviewed me, and said that we're running a program that'll give you cash assistance. So I was like, okay, I've never heard of this one before, but I kind of need it. And when I got out of prison, I was actually still on parole. So, I was faced with parole, reporting, fines, fees, so on and so forth. And I didn't know how I was going to manage it. And I was, kind of worried about being technically violated and being sent back. So, when I got in contact with Kevin and he told me that I would be receiving an income, that was a major burden lift.
I thank you so much for sharing that. It's actually a good segue for the next question, which is how has receiving this cash impacted you since you came home? And then what are your hopes for the future on this as well?
The major word that comes to mind is you're overwhelmed But the biggest thing is stability. Stability for me was everything. As I said, I was vetted out of prison by Volunteers of America. So I pre-planned what I wanted to do actually before I got out of prison. So I went to Volunteers of America, and that's where I actually received this mail from Kevin. And the income in itself has provided clothes. It has provided me to be able to actually afford a vehicle. I drive now, I have a car now. It put me in a position to be able to get my CDLs reinstated. So I have those back again, you know what I'm saying? And I can seek employment. My hope for the future is to be an advocate of whatever area I can for, just income, because there are a lot of people that are going to be getting out of prison and going to find themselves just like I was with no income. I had family support, but I really didn't want to lean on them. So what I did was I went to a halfway house so that I could fend for myself and do what I need to do. Excuses are for those that are incompetent. And I know that I'm a very sane individual, so I make things happen. And I just wanted to do it from a legal standpoint as opposed to how I used to do it.
Thank you so much, Calvin. Appreciate it. And then what are your hopes for the future?
My hopes for the future is that somebody hires me real soon here in the near future. I have pending applications with Amazon, FedEx, Performance Food Group here, and I'm just waiting on someone to say something. What had happened prior to that was that I was hindered due to the parole, so I couldn't go anywhere. It wouldn't allow me to go outside of Alachua County. So I drive over the road for a living, so hopefully something break here soon. My hope is that I can advocate for Community Springs, just income.
Thank you so much for sharing, Calvin. Appreciate it. Next up is Georgia. Hey again. Tell us about being a part of Compton Pledge.
She may be muted.
Hey, Georgia. Hey.
Oh, I didn't hear Georgia. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. How are you?
I'm good. And yourself, sir?
Good. Really great with all of you here. So tell us all about being a part of Compton Pledge and how has it impacted where you are in your journey right now?
Well, being a part of Compton Pledge has been a very life-changing event for me. Compton Pledge was introduced in my life just when the COVID-19 hit, and me being an evangelist and speaking, that's what I do, share my testimony, go around the world. Being an international prison evangelist, my income was made by my speaking engagements and different ways of going into the school system and sharing my story as well as my experience. And so when Compton Pledge came in, I had lost my ability to be able to speak. It just had stopped everything. I went to having income to actually zero income totally. And they came in and they were able to reestablish me. Because of them, I was able to start my own business, my own nonprofit. Because of them, I was able to relaunch my business again, my speaking engagements again. Because of them, I was able to purchase a laptop, help with my economical finances, as well as my housing, as well as my rent, my electricity, as my clothing, developing and getting all the necessary technology things that I needed to move my career and my ministry forward. And so they were a big entity and a big assistance in the redirection of my life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So can you tell us about your nonprofit? And also, what are your hopes for the future?
Yeah, so my nonprofit, like I was sharing, I'm an international prison evangelist. So I go from different prisons all over the world, going inside, teaching trauma material, teaching the word of God, encouraging ex-offenders and keeping things going, as well as we supply financial assistance, Christmas cards. We partner with their children. The nonprofit Georgia Horton Ministries, we do several things. We also are advocate, helping bring an awareness to society, because a lot of people are not aware of the struggles and situations that goes on. We also bring, we use platforms and access platforms for us TBN and media to bring awareness of what the COVID-19 suffering and different awareness of things that's going on. So that's pretty much what we basically do. And what my hope is for the future, my hope for the future is that this program, as well as guaranteed income, as well as the CAO program, the Starting Strong Today, and every other entity that is on this program today, will be fully funded by governments, by volunteers, by anybody that has someone that is incarcerated, or anyone that's in the process of helping, assisting the returning citizens to be reestablished inside the society. One of the things that's really passionate on my heart right now, while we're dealing with financial deficit, the whole world has been resetted. Everybody out here is, in one way or another, has been crippled economically, financially, concerning this COVID-19. And so there needs to be a revamp and a reset globally, all over, even more so for those who are incarcerated. And I find it very interesting that even in the process of us being inside of this type of situation, the world can understand that the value system of the inmates, as far as making products for them, and 76% of them products are being sold, not internal, but external. We can utilize and invest in the value system for them working to produce products out here for the world. Then why can we not see the value system of them needing the assistance of coming back into the world and being a part of society? If you can see value one way, you can see value another. That's very hypocritical to me. And so, and then a lot of times they think that the inmates, what they are producing behind the walls, or what they're making behind the walls, where they're getting paid 6 cents and 7 cents, is maybe something that's small. No, they're making, in California, there are people that are incarcerated that are making dentures, that are optometrists, that's actually doing your glasses. So your teeth that are in your mouth might be actually being made by inmate behind the walls. An office, or a dentist office, in a regular office, and you got a person coming out there with a white coat, and you're looking at your things, but it's being sent behind the walls. So if we can see the value system and understand that, then my hope for the future is that we can also create a funding and a system that can also help them reintegrate in society with dignity, not as a handout, but a hand up. Me, myself, like I said, when I paroled, we was talking about California, they give $200. Well, just to bring a little bit more insight upon that, yes, they're supposed to give you $200, but I paroled with a $125 check. Why? Because I had been there so long that the things that they gave me originally, the original cup, the original coat, the original locker, the original shoes, and the things that I had got 25 years ago, was not the things that I turned in at that time. Who's going to have the same thing? So I was charged for those items. So here I am coming from Chowchilla to Los Angeles, which is a 5-hour destination drive, and on a Greyhound bus, starting my life all over again with this check. And we have to pay for our tickets upon going home. So somebody has spoken earlier about people, not wanting to go back to what they was doing, entering into prostitution. Well, sometimes you don't even get a chance to make it out of the city that you have just paroled out of the county. You just can't, because you don't even have the finance to even buy the bus ticket to even go to your house, to your destination. And so there you're instantly engulfed in what you're going to do. You're stuck there. So like I said, I know I got passionate. I'm very passionate about this. I'm gonna pull back because I know I probably overexceeded my time, but I'm just the wrong one and I'm sold out about this. I'm just so passionate about this. This whole thing needs to be restricted. And everybody on here, if there anything I can do to push this forward, I promise you, I am 100% in. And for those of you who are listening, I'm asking you, would you please find a way to bring funding here? Please find a way to support. Please
Go get him. Go get him.
find a way to participate. Please find a way to attach. Please find a way to support financially. And please find a way to continue on because it's time for a reset. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Georgia. That was powerful. Definitely share a lot, like all of your visions for the future. So we need you. Don't lose that passion. And no, definitely you did not extend your time. We loved every single moment of it. Passing it over to Barbara. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Georgia. You got me hyped. I just got to be honest. And it took me back to my days as a job coach and the conversations that I'll have with my participants, and that was powerful, and I appreciate that. So I'm gonna take it to Cindy. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. What was your journey, and how did you come to receive cash assistance?
So I got introduced to RCS in CRDF, Linwood Jail here in LA, California. And honestly, to be 100% honest, I was kind of hesitant. I was like, do I got to pay back? I'm not going to take something if I have to pay back and later on, like, who's just going to give me money just because? Like, no. My interest was because, I was discouraged on my felony. How the hell am I going to get work? How am I going to get back on my feet? I got 5 boys to support. And, I got myself in this mess, but I'm not trying to find the easy way out, for sure. And I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on the opportunity that this course came called Job Center to work around having that felony on my record, helping me work around that felony in my record. So I did the course, I graduated, and when I got released, I was introduced to CEO, came, did the paperwork, and once again, it got brought up. So I'm like, I'm not gonna sign it. I don't want it if I had to pay it back. I got a lot going on, and please don't set me up for failure. And and that was just the person that I had became because I was just so scared and wanted to be aware of really what I was going to get myself into. And CEO, in the greatest way, kind of broke me to become who I am now, building a trust that I fell out because of where I landed in jail. I didn't trust nobody. I didn't even trust myself. And they helped me build that trust, that there are not just, the organization, but they are individuals that are here to genuinely help you out, to really help you become a better person. And the breakdown that they did in the RCS was awesome. I think it kind of helped, instead of it be given in a large sum, to break it down, to help us disperse it properly. And it helped me, it was the perfect timing. When I got out, I was able to take my kids out, get a motel to have that one-on-one with my kids. Like I said, I have 5 boys. My oldest is 17. Before my incarceration, I've never been separated from my kids. So the 6 months had to be, sorry guys, the hardest to be separated from my kids. But it made me the strongest to never put myself in this position, never have to go through this ever again. And having that dependency to not depend on nobody and prove to myself that once again, I can do it. And CEO helped me with that. It helped me also to pay my reinstitution fees. It wasn't much, but it was still something. And the last of it, I was able to save it up to get my home, to bring my kids back home.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. I felt that. I felt that deep. And you answered the second question. So I'm gonna just skip to the last one. And have cash assistance impacted your ability to reconnect to the workforce?
It helped me to obviously, buy what I needed to buy to, to go to work. And that how do I explain it? I'm sorry, you guys, I'm nervous. That confidence, it gave me confidence. And like I said, not having that dependency to ask anybody to help me out. It gave me the opportunity to really do this on my own and give myself that strength to keep on.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. And I appreciate that powerful statement. And with that, we're going to follow up with Sandra. How have the cash payments impacted you?
Okay, so the cash payments have impacted me. Well, so when I was introduced also to CEO through Job Center at CRDF, I had a split. I had two sentences. I had my prison sentence, and then I had a violation of my AB 109, which they sent me when I paroled from prison. They sent me to CRDF to finish my second sentence out. So I was really bummed about that, but it was a blessing in disguise because I never would have known about CEO and all the resources that they've helped me with and the networking that they've provided to me in order to be where I'm at today. So with that being said, I just want to say that cash assistance has helped me because they offered me the work crew temporary job, right? So I had that in LA, but I was residing in Lancaster with my daughter. So the commute was crazy and my car was a little putt-putt. So it would turn off on me trying to get to work and I'd be like, oh no. And I didn't want to burden my family with, hey, can I borrow your car, But sometimes I had to. So then CEO was like, hey, you know what? We got this cash assistance program that you qualify for because, you've been coming to work and you've been doing this. And I was like, oh, wow, what a blessing, So it helped me to be able to let go of that car and put a down payment on a new car, And so it provided transportation to work back and forth because I had a long commute. So it helped me in that sense. And then the second one helped me. I think I had one of my granddaughter's birthdays coming up and they were all going to Magic Mountain. And to be less of a burden on them, that cash assistance also helped me in that sense. So yeah, it's been a blessing.
Awesome. And the last question is, how do you think other people returning from incarceration could benefit from cash assistance?
So everybody's different, but I think we all have the same struggles. Some people might use it, to get a driver's license, an ID, just to be able to get a job out here in society, People may use it for that, but people may use it like I used it for a car payment, for an Uber, for their children, for a place to stay for the night. I mean, there's so many different needs out here when you first get out of prison or jail that this cash assistance definitely helps us, and we do appreciate it. So, and it's a step. It's a step towards success and a step further away from destruction and failure. That's what I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Sandra. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Joe to ask us 2 questions. Did anyone say something? I want to make sure I don't cut no one off. No, we're good. So I'm going to pass it on to Joe to ask us 2 more questions. He's going to open it to the floor. So with that, Joe, you could take it away.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. So here's where I'll definitely start reading a few Q&As, but definitely wanted to just highlight all the thank yous for sharing. Very powerful stories, and definitely this is the reason why we're all gathered here today, to return strong like you all have. So definitely just huge shout out to all of you. Great job, and very, very inspired. So Q&As. Okay, cool. Is there anything else you would tell decision makers about cash assistance? Any of you?
I would like to add that I feel that this would definitely give all the people being incarcerated that are coming home a reason to focus on a solution to the future instead of the problem of the past.
And what I would like to add to that is that along with the cash assistance, which is so needed and necessary, that along with it, that there will be some financial training and some financial coping skills that will be implemented inside of that to help assist. Because a lot of times people don't understand that when people go into the prison system, not only do they come out with financial trauma, but they go inside with financial trauma. And so I believe that that's something else that needs to be attached to the beautiful work that's already been done and been done.
Thank you so much. And then one more question is for anyone. What would you want people to know about returning to society after incarceration? Any of you can take it.
Calvin. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, go Calvin.
Karina, then Calvin.
Okay.
Go, Karina.
I would like to add that for them to understand that it's not an easy process. We come out, just like Georgia said, we come out with a lot of trauma, PTSD, things that we've been through. And I would like for them to see past our criminal history and understand that we all deserve a second chance. And this is our opportunity to shine and show them that we got this, we made a mistake, but we're overcoming that. And that they understand that this is important to us. It is hard for us to come out to nothing. Some of us have been in there 25 years, 15, 20, and don't have nobody to come home to. Their whole family died out, and to understand that this is important to us and to look past what we did and give us that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Karina. Calvin, take us away.
Second chances should be like on the forefront of everything. I mean, even if it's something heinous that people have done time for, went back to court, won, whatever, what have you. I would in particular not like to be scrutinized or judged because I made a mistake. I would like the opportunity to correct whatever it was I did wrong and help others in the process. So, this Senate bill that's in the Senate with what Ms. Pam was talking about, I need to know how we can push that forward and how we can advocate for it and what is all of us recipients needing to do to help get this done. So, that's where I'm at. How can we help somebody else that's coming from where I just came from?
And what I would like to add to that is I would like to not only challenge all the entities that I know that are out there that are supporting, but I really would like to really put a challenge out to the, me being an evangelist, me being a woman, that I would like to put a challenge out to the churches. and the religious organizations and the religious structures, the pastors, the teachers, the preachers, the believers, that whether you're Catholic, no particular faith, all spiritual awakening people, that I believe that there should be an entry, that there should be a prison program inside of your structure. And if you yourself personally are not, aware of it, or don't, it might be something a little new to you, then connect with some organization that's in the community, Compton Pledge, other organizations that are willing to embrace you. Because I believe that it's a structure that should be set up inside of that system too, to welcome back. Because one of the things that they said, we got 12 steps, we got 8 steps, we got 32 steps. But one of the biblical principles is to remember the others as if you're chained with them. So I would really like to put that challenge out there.
Thank you so much, Georgia. And you all, you've all been the best panelists. And I'm going to pass it back to Simone.
That was really beautifully said by everyone. And thank you for that transition note as well, Calvin. I really, really appreciate that. That's exactly what we want to do in this last section. I hope that you've been inspired by some of what you've heard today. I think we had an awesome opportunity to do just that. I have the privilege of introducing the next individual that we're going to be speaking with. We've talked all throughout this event about a very important bill that is pending right now in the California legislature. That bill has actually been authored by Senator Cindy Kamlager, and we have her legislative staff here joining us. Will you please introduce yourself, and then we'll ask a couple of questions about this bill and let folks know how they can get involved as well.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Balkis Awan. Like Simone said, I'm a legislative staffer for Senator Kamlager. I staff her on a number of policy issue areas, the main one being public safety. And of course, I'm staffing SB 1304 this session, and grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, because I know that it is a very busy time of the session, but we've been following this bill really closely, and actually some of the advocates that you just heard from were actually there to testify in support of that bill in the state of California. So could you just tell people who are not familiar with this bill, with Senate Bill 1304, what the inception was, what led to its introduction, and maybe what the goals were there?
Sure. So Senator Kamlager this session really wanted to focus on economic justice as one of the core pieces of her legislative package this year. So when we were looking at public safety legislation that she wanted to carry this session, we knew that working with the gate money allowance was definitely something that we wanted to move forward with, particularly based off of meetings that some of our district staffers had with constituents on the ground who expressed that the $200 that people were getting was not sufficient for people to be welcomed back into their communities. We also frequently receive mail from incarcerated people. And so we had received a number of letters of people telling us that this would be a great bill idea. And so it was a no-brainer for us on the ledge staff to move forward with this. Did you want me to talk a bit about what the bill does?
Yes, please tell people exactly what it would do. You mentioned the $200, but can you tell people?
Yeah, sure. So as I'm sure you all know, CDCR's gate money allowance right now is $200. And while this is one of the highest numbers in the United States, it hasn't been adjusted for inflation since 1973. And so using the MIT living wage calculator, what SB 1304 would do was increase the amount from $200 to $2,590 based off of what they've calculated 1 month's expenses would be for a pre-tax single adult in the state of California. And that is an average. That's not even necessarily taking into account people that live in cities where the cost of living is even higher. And on top of that, of course, what the bill would also do is compel CDCR to adjust for inflation every year going forward from 2024 onward. So in a nutshell, that is what the bill does.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much for being a part of this and for championing that as well. I think the next thing people definitely want to know again is what they can do, what they should do, what would be helpful. Can you tell people kind of what the next steps are, what should they anticipate, and then how they can get involved?
Yeah, definitely. So the bill right now has made it through its first policy committee. It passed successfully out of the Senate Public Safety Committee, which was great. Right now, it's on the suspense file in Senate Appropriations Committee. An extremely helpful thing that would certainly supplement our efforts on this end is sending letters of support. I know that we have a template support letter. I'd be happy to send it to a point of contact and we can distribute that widely. You just have to submit it through the advocates portal. Beyond that, we are going to be championing a $91 million budget ask to the Senate Budget Committee to be able to, supplement this legislation. Right now, CDCR's budget is $8 million. And so we've calculated the number that we're looking to increase multiplied by the number of people that were released. I believe in the year 2020 was the last time that data was given. And so we came up with a number that was around 99 million, subtracting for the 8 million that's already in existence, 91 million was the number that we came up with. Of course, that's a pretty large budget ask. So any sort of advocacy that we can get with members of the budget committee will be extremely appreciated. And so in the immediate, those are the things that we can do right now. And of course, once it hopefully successfully gets through the Senate, we'll be doing the same process on the assembly side up until the finish line.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for giving everybody a rundown. I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of people interested in following up with you for exactly that. So what we're asking folks to do is actually send an email to folks. Send an email to us. Send it to organizing@ceoworks.org. We'll have somebody put that in the chat as well. It's organizing@ceoworks.org. Please send us an email and let us know that you want to be a part of this, and we will definitely help everyone to take action on it in that way. I'm so excited that the bill has moved, and I'm so excited that it will more than tenfold the amount that people are getting. It's so important, and I really want to thank you so much also for being a part of that. Thank you. All right, so folks, we've got a couple more things that we want to do in the time that we have here. In fact, we've had a really awesome time listening to all of our advocates and then also hearing about this bill. So quickly, there's a couple of more things that we want to do before we can dismiss for today from this virtual rally. The first thing is we want to share with you a couple of ways that you can amplify the call for cash assistance. We have been talking about this event as Returning Strong. We have titled it this way specifically because we need people to do more than just come home or just return. We need them to return as strong as possible. We need them to have the financial assistance that they'll need to make up for all of the different gaps and all of the holes in our public services. So we actually have a toolkit that we would love for everybody to share and to share out as well as you can. Please reference the link that you will see dropping in the chat. You will have a lot of different graphics that you can use, different posts that you can use for templates. This will be a great way for you to continue to share the hashtag Returning Strong. And also, as you scroll down in that template, the first thing that you will see at the very bottom are state legislators. There is a link there at the bottom of that toolkit that you can click on that will pop up every single state, not just California, but every single state, their Twitter, their Instagram, any other social accounts that they have, so that you can customize your advocacy and you can make sure that you are adding all of those entities. So whether you're in Florida, whether you're in California, you will see handles for all those different accounts, and you can use any of the suggested posts, download any of the material, including the video that we got to see at the top of the rally. So please do that and continue to use this as a call. We do not want this to be a one-stop shop. This night in particular is meant to be the first of a long road ahead for us to do advocacy for folks who are returning, because we want them to return as strong as possible. So in the time that we have left, I'm going to actually pass it to the CEO of CEO to wrap us up and to close out the rally.
Well, thank you, Simone, and thank you to everyone for joining us tonight, and for all those who've hung with us for the last hour and a half. You know, in the chat just a moment ago, Prince Seaborn wrote, "I love this group." And as I was thinking about how to express my feelings for, you know, all the speakers tonight and all the action that's being taken, I can't sum it up better than that. And the reason I love this group is because we heard from Cindy, Karina, Calvin, Jose, Georgia, and Sandra just how important this cash was, just how much of an impact they were able to make on their own lives when we gave them that trust. We were able to hear from Khalil on how, in the height of a pandemic, doing the amazing work of his program, he was able to stand up this extra effort. From Kevin, Nika, Pam, you know, it's so amazing to hear about other efforts. When we started RCS, we weren't aware of, other initiatives giving cash to folks coming home. It's just amazing, to have fellow travelers in this effort. Balkis, the legislative leadership of the senator is just phenomenal. We are so excited to potentially just take that bill and try to copycat that around the country, right? It's such an exciting prospect. When we began this effort just about exactly 2 years ago, at some point, I think on a weekend, March 2020, the height of COVID anxiety, I called our CFO and I asked her to order 10,000 pay cards. And she said, "Why do we need 10,000 pay cards?" I said, "Because I think we may be able to give people cash." But never in my wildest dreams did I think that the returning citizen stimulus would reach over 10,000 people, that we would actually use every single one of those cards and more. And what, from a planning standpoint, the CEO team and what those are doing in Gainesville and Compton and other places are doing is, it's just such a, huge challenge to stand up these programs. But as the months went on and the weeks went by and the stories started coming in about the impact of those 10,000, it struck me just how wise the people who were receiving this money were making, and how that wisdom was coming out and they're making use of it. I'll just quickly, we heard versions of this story already tonight. I mean, we had, people starting businesses when they were denied capital from the SBA, and they went on to hire other formerly incarcerated folks. We saw that generosity begetting generosity. We saw people buying cars to get to better jobs, but also to take family and loved ones to medical appointments. We shot a video with a man who talked about paying for a funeral for his mom. And we questioned, there's resources for that. He said, "You know what? I wanted to do it. I was the black sheep in the family, I felt like, and this was a way I could step up." And it rebuild the trust. I knew exactly what I had to do with that money. Time and time again, we realized and relearned and reaffirmed the value of giving people deep trust. And the value of cash assistance, I think, should be part of every reentry plan. And I think to a point that was made earlier, the idea that we're putting forward is, yes, this works. And also across the entire reentry domain, the best decision we can make is investing deeply into every single person who comes home from incarceration. And so I just want to thank Simone and all the organizers for putting together an event that, truly is nourishing to the soul. We've been doing this work for a long time. It's so great to stay motivated and energized by all this. You'll be hearing from us in the coming days about more that you can do to support this movement, whether it's SB 1304, similar bills, similar efforts in states. I know that you can reach out to the CEO team at organizing at CEO Works at any time. We know you have great ideas. We want to hear them. We want input into their work. And finally, just thank you all for being here and for these amazing efforts.
All right, everyone, that was it. Thank you so much for joining us for Returning Strong, a virtual rally for reentry cash assistance. Everyone have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.